as promised, let's get going. Hello and welcome to, well, essentially this is the fourth of our Forgotten Function series, but to be honest, I've lost count of how many of these sort of webinars that we've actually participated and presented at. This one being about all things AdBridge and social, actually, and also about marketing calendar. Wanted to set the scene just a little bit. By the way, hello, I'm Graham. I am CEO and founder here at BluprintX ANZ. And the two folks that are with me today, I'll introduce just as they step up to bat, so to speak. Wanted to give a brief introduction to you, the audience. So this was as of midday, by the way, for you panelists amongst us, just so you know who you're pitching to. So there's quite a number of folks in here that have got less than 1 year experience in Marketo. And as for the folks who've got 5 years experience, what are you doing here? Have you got nothing better to do? And in fact, would you like to present at the next one? Let us know if you do. Why the Forgotten Functions? Well, we kind of like the idea that we've got such a massive, diverse range of consultants and huge amounts of experience. So we want to just pass that on to people. So if there's anything that you can take out of this, and just incidentally on the screen there are some of the previous ones, or the ones that we've done just this year, actually, things like A/B testing and my tokens, personalization, advanced weight steps, all those sort of things. There's been quite a number of folks who've fed back, and thank you for that, saying, hey, I had no idea Marketo could do this, or that you could get Marketo to do this. So hopefully there's going to be 1 or 2 of those moments today where you'll go, never knew that was the case. Thank you for showing me. So about today, it's all very relaxed. If you've got any questions, please put it into the Zoom window, the Q&A button. You'll find there's a place to type things into there. But I'm going to ask a question or 2, in fact 4, when it comes on to the part about AdBridge. And we'll just ask a few questions at that point. And it'll help us just to pitch as to how much experience you guys have got. Talking of experience, we're quite experienced in all this stuff. We are part of a large organisation based in Liverpool in the UK. We are locally here in Australia a gold partner for Marketo, but overseas and internationally we are a platinum partner, and one of the only few in and around the world. So we kind of know what we're talking about. And talking of people who know what they're talking about, the next part is to delve into AdBridge. And on the right-hand side here, you'll see Santi's bio, just a real quick bio on him. MCE certified as far as Marketo is concerned. I put all Googled up earlier on, and then decided to backtrack and actually do something a bit more sensible. But huge amounts of experience, and he's kind of our go-to guy when somebody says, "Hey, I'm trying to do this in Marketo from a social perspective. What's the best way of me doing this?" And his huge experience at Oxfam, trying to get Marketo to kind of stand on its head to do all things social and ads-wise, has come in hugely beneficial since he joined the company a few months ago. Let's say, I want to say 7 months ago. You can correct me if you like. So a quick poll, and don't know how many of these, I think I've got 4 questions in here. Quick poll of the audience, if that's all right, and please participate. It makes us feel as though we're not talking to ourselves. So I've got 4 questions to ask. We'll go through them, obviously, in order. So the first question is, does your marketing budget, in other words, do you spend any money in pay-per-click and in social? So not too sure how many folks have started. I'm going to give it another 5 or 6 seconds. If you can press the button, that'd be very helpful. And rumor has it that I do the end polling bit there. Then I move on to the second question, which is, if so, on which ad networks? So do you use LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, or Google? All that apply. Okay, cool. And then relaunch polling. I'm going to go for the third question, which is, do you advertise yourself or through a digital market, or do you use a digital marketing agency in order to do that? I promise I'll share all these at the end. Interesting. Most people are using an agency. And then the big question, I guess, this one here, do you use Marketo AdBridge already? Ooh, everybody's no. Everyone's no, which explains a lot. Actually, no, there's a few coming in now that, yeah, so pretty much so Santi, just assume you're starting from scratch. So I'm going to end the polling and I'll share those a little bit later on if you like. But let me, at this point, introduce or just hand over to you, I think, Santi, and you can take over and run with it from there.
Cool. Thanks, Graham. That's interesting on the poll results. I'll be keen to see those later. Okay. So yeah, as you've alluded to, AdBridge, I think it's a really interesting functionality that the Marketo platform offers, and definitely one that's a little bit forgotten. Not a lot of our clients are using this one, and I think it has a lot of potential because it can essentially make truth on that promise of Marketo being the conductor of your marketing orchestra. You can really use the power of Marketo to send immediate comms to people who are coming in through your lead ads on social. And it can also use Marketo's powers of filtering and segments and segmentations and all that to push lists and smart lists for Marketo out into Facebook, Google, or LinkedIn. Yep, so as I've said, AdBridge can help integrate with your PPC efforts across Facebook. Facebook ads includes Instagram. This is why it was only one option in that poll. Google and LinkedIn. And AdBridge goes both ways. It can push lists. It goes inbound, so pulling leads from paid social into Marketo, and also outbound, which is pushing Marketo audiences or lists into PPC platforms. This used to be an extra add-on that you had to pay for, but now almost everybody gets it. So if you look into your Marketo contract, that's sort of what you're looking for, ad targeting. And if you do have that ad targeting bit, that's what AdBridge is. And it does include audiences, which is the outbound from Marketo into social, and lead ads, which is from Facebook, LinkedIn into Marketo. So I'll jump into Marketo quickly so that we can sort of visualize what I'm talking about here. And I've prepared this little presentation, this little test campaign for the presentation. So let's start with the audiences and how you can push a list of people from Marketo into Google, Facebook, or LinkedIn. This is just a regular Marketo smart list. So this is, for example, I'm keen to target people on LinkedIn who we have sent the email for the Marketo Unlocked presentation. So this is a really useful tool for remarketing efforts, for example. So you probably have already seen a smart list like this one. I'm just going, was sent email. Email is Marketo Unlocked. And all I need to do once I have set up AdBridge is go list actions and send to ad network. And then I'm able to choose between LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google. These ones down here, I haven't found a lot of useful, but Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google are these ones up top. I'll do my example with LinkedIn because I have already kind of set up a few things there. So if I choose LinkedIn and go next, it's going to ask me which audience to push people to. And I can select one of these that I have already created LinkedIn side. And it gives me two options. I can either add some of these people to the audience or remove them from the audience. And once I hit update, that's pretty much it. It's going to push the people into that LinkedIn audience. So that's one half of the AdBridge experience. And the other one is the lead ads. So if you've never seen a LinkedIn lead ad before or a Facebook Facebook lead ad, I've prepared this one for you to have an idea about what it looks like and why this is actually a really interesting feature to use. This is a little example that I prepared for this webinar, and it's a LinkedIn lead ad or lead gen ad. And don't show this one to JL, our head of UX, because it's probably really off-brand and it doesn't look very good because I created it in like 5 minutes. But if you see this on your LinkedIn feed, once you click sign up here, you'll notice that you get this light box and you're never leaving LinkedIn. So that's already a really frictionless experience from a user perspective. And it does the same when you're on mobile. So if you're on the mobile LinkedIn app, if you just click one of these ads, it's going to give you this form directly within the LinkedIn app. And you can also see this is already pre-filled. So that's even more frictionless. All I need to do in order to fill this form is hit submit, and that's it. Now, if I have done the AdBridge connection with my Marketo instance correctly, then that lead will immediately appear in my Marketo instance. So I'll just jump back to Marketo and show you what that looks like in here. I've created a second smart list that's called filled out LinkedIn form. The smart list, these are filters that appear once you have done that AdBridge connection. So filled out LinkedIn lead gen form. And I can select a specific lead gen form. There's also a set of constraints that I can choose so that I can be even more granular when I'm picking which people are coming from LinkedIn, such as campaign name, account name, number of times, date of activity, and so on and so forth. And then if I hit leads here, I'll be able to see that that record has already come in. So now that I have created this person directly in Marketo, and as you saw, it was immediate, I can actually trigger off some automated communications to this person. So I could, for example, create a smart campaign like this one, thanks for filling out form, that just sends them a thank you email immediately. So you can see how this becomes a really powerful way to mix the powers of something like ads on LinkedIn or on Facebook with the automation that Marketo offers. You could do anything from a thank you email to add them to an engagement program or drip nurture, to add them to a lead scoring campaign or whatever else you want to do. So I might show you the new filters and triggers that you get once you have done this connection. You've got fills out Facebook leads ad form, filled out Facebook leads ad form, filters and triggers. Same thing for LinkedIn. Fills out, filled out, and you also have the negatives, not filled out LinkedIn lead gen form. And again, all of these come with a set of constraints so that you can be quite precise in picking the people that are coming in. Cool. So I'll go back to these slides, and after that demo, let's go through maybe some main concepts to have in mind. The audiences link is the one that pushes lists from Marketo, the one that I showed first, into Facebook, Google, or LinkedIn ads. This one is not a flow step, unfortunately, so you cannot automate that push. You always have to go into that option that I showed you, send to AdBridge, and send the updated lists across. But it's pretty great if you want to repeat a message that you're sending on email across social or across Google. So it's a pretty great tool for remarketing. You can also use it by saving some money, some advertising money, by essentially not advertising to someone who has already converted. So that type of information is already on your Marketo. So you can push exclusion lists into Facebook, Google, or LinkedIn, and essentially just tell them, don't spend money on this lot because they have already done whatever I wanted them to do. And this third use case could be interesting if you're using some type of agency and you have some type of privacy issues where you don't really want your agency manipulating your CSV files with all of your client information. You can just push audiences directly to your paid social platforms without having to manually operate a CSV. So that can come in quite handy. In terms of those ad networks that you can advertise on, it's not just, so when I say Google Ads, I don't just mean Google search, it's all of these. So Google Ads actually allows you to reach Google search, search partners, Google Display, YouTube, Gmail, and Google Shopping. Facebook audiences can also be used across Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and Facebook Audience Network. And LinkedIn is just LinkedIn. So the second bit would be your lead ad. So that's from Facebook and LinkedIn into Marketo. This one is an automated process, so that record is automatically created in Marketo upon your form fill. And yeah, you can grab those leads directly on your social platforms. Because you have that autofill and people are not leaving that social platform, then you usually tend to have a lower cost per lead. And since the leads get created directly on Marketo, it allows you for some automated follow-up email comms. It's also worth mentioning this does leave these new leads with a lead source of LinkedIn lead ads or Facebook lead ads. So just have that in mind when you're creating these linkages. If you don't want that to come up as your lead source, you probably should set up some type of automation to change that. Cool. So I might just quickly go into how this is set up. You do need to have admin access in order to be able to do this, but I'll show you what it looks like from an admin perspective. I'll just go into the admin and launch point. Here is where you set up all of your launch point integrations into Marketo, and all you have to do is go new and new service. And from this drop down here, you can select something like, I'll do the LinkedIn audiences one, LinkedIn matched audiences. Oh, I already had one. Sorry, I'll just delete that one. And I'll do it again. So you need to give it a name. I just normally name it the same as it's already called. And when I hit next, the one thing to have in mind about these ones is that the linkage is made via a personal LinkedIn or Facebook or Google account. So when I hit authorize here, it's going to take me to my LinkedIn sign up page. And if I hit sign in, this is my personal LinkedIn account. When I hit sign in, it's going to have my face and my name on it. And now essentially what I have done is linked this Marketo instance to every LinkedIn account, every LinkedIn ads account that I have access to on the LinkedIn site. And it's as easy as that in terms of setting up the audiences. Just go back to the slides. It's worth mentioning that all of these launch point connectors, every one of them uses the personal logins to link Marketo on your platform of choice, but they all require slightly different specific access levels for that specific personal account for each of these connectors to work properly. So, if you run into any issues here, just flick us an email and ask us for more information. We'd be happy to help. Now into some quirks. Oh, I've already done the demo, so I'll skip that. So once the launch point connection has been set up, as I've said, any new leads will start appearing automatically in the database. You'll get some shiny new filters and triggers, and all of them come with new constraints. With just some quirks to sort of have in mind, the audience connector on Facebook has its moments. So we have seen that fall down at random intervals sometimes. So if this happens, all you need to do is go back into launch point and reauthorize it, as I have just done. And with LinkedIn, with the audiences one specifically, it is an all or nothing in terms of which LinkedIn accounts it can access. As you have seen, when I did that connection, it didn't ask me which ad accounts I wanted to have access to. It just went directly in. So if I'm using my personal LinkedIn account to connect through LaunchPoint and I have access to 3 LinkedIn pages, the Marketo instance will be able to access all of the audiences across all of those LinkedIn pages. So I cannot really choose between one of them. And yeah, finally, the LinkedIn connector has an automatic expiration date of 1 year, and it cannot be changed. So it's just worth having that in mind, maybe setting some alarm or alert in your calendar to remember that before the link expires. And yeah, that's it. I think it's a really interesting tool and one that I think should be used a bit more often, because it can really help you integrate all of your inbound and outbound efforts and bring some of those Marketo smarts into your performance marketing efforts. And also the whole thing about being able to automate those thank you communications for those leads that you're generating on social, I think is pretty powerful. So
I know that And Santi, I've got a couple of questions here that'll come to you in a second. But I know that out of the number of people, and we've got what, say 300 customers, there's probably 200 active customers within our world. I think the number of people actually using this on an active basis is real low. It's about 10% or so. And why is that, do you think? Any ideas? Is it just people don't know about it? Is it people are so concentrating on email? Any ideas?
Well, I don't think, Mark, I don't think that there is that people are making enough of an effort to publicize that this is out there. In my case, I just kind of ran into this maybe very randomly. So I think it's just one of those things that it's a bit of an Easter egg. It's a bit of a hidden function that people don't know about. But especially the one that pulls leads from paid social into Marketo,
yeah,
I think that's incredibly powerful.
The audience kind of, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try and integrate these two platforms in such a way? It's a really powerful one.
Two specific questions. Where did the details from? I've written it down wrong. So where did the details from the LinkedIn form come from? It was pre-filled. Is that come from the LinkedIn detail?
From my LinkedIn account. Everything that was pre-filled was my LinkedIn account details. So email, first name, last name, that's everything that I have set up LinkedIn side.
So it is potential that you would have a different email address to what you would have from a business perspective if you're running B2B, for example.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, but we handle that. And then you'd mentioned real fast that the lead source is presumably LinkedIn lead form or something like that. Why would you want to change that?
Well, maybe you're actually looking to change that to something that is a bit more encompassing, like social. So it depends on your naming convention. Strategy.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. Thanks very much. If there's any other questions, folks, don't hesitate to use the Q&A box. But Suze, I think it's your turn to share, if that's all right, rather than pinging back to me. So back to Suzanne, and I'll just say a few words in setting you up. But once again, cool.
You want to do the intro then?
Thank you. I'll do the intro and then you ask the question in a sec. So by way of introduction, Suzanne has been with RMS and now Bluprint, of course, for 8 years, 9 years, something like that.
7.
Huge number of Marketo implementations, massive number of training courses done. She's also our Salesforce guru as far as kind of taken the mantle away from both me and Nora, to be frank, as far as doing Salesforce implementations sometimes over a weekend. So not that that's what she's focusing on today. Today she's focusing on something almost as big as that, and it's the Marketo calendar. So with that in mind, I'll let Suze do sort of the main introduction. But I did want to ask one question, and then I'll hand over to you, Suze. How's that? So if I go there and I do launch polling, there we go, folks. Can you answer that question for me? Do you use the Marketo calendar? Okay, so there's none in my team relies heavily. There's a handful in I know it exists, but most people are saying there's a marketing calendar. That actually means a Marketo calendar, but that's all cool. Yeah. So again, Suze, I think we go with the expectation that you're starting from scratch. Go for it.
Well, that's good. I was kind of hoping that in a way. So marketing calendar. When I told the guys here that I was, going to talk about marketing calendar, that I chose that as a topic, people were kind of surprised. I think the marketing calendar has been around for so long, and it's just not something that a lot of people maybe think of as one of Marketo's core features. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to surprise a few of you with some of the things that you can actually do with it. And I do think it really, is one of those features that every Marketo user should really know about, that it exists, and see how they can use it. So what is the marketing calendar? So the calendar sits inside of Marketo, which means that it actually shows you in real time any marketing activities that you have scheduled. So think any emails that you may have scheduled, any events that you're doing from Marketo, so that automatically will show up inside of the marketing calendar. But you can also actually add other activities in there, add like custom entries. So let's say, you have a press release, or maybe, the date that your new website goes live, or whatever it may be, something that doesn't necessarily sit within a Marketo program, but something that is relevant for your team to know about. So who's it for? I would say anyone who kind of needs that top level overview of what's going on in your Marketo instance. So if they're involved in planning and scheduling, think maybe your marketing manager or your comms manager, or if you are in an events team, that can be very useful. Or if you actually need to have that kind of final look over assets going out from Marketo, and if you need to approve things. So yeah, for a lot of kind of different roles, I would say the marketing calendar can be key, but mainly there are people who don't necessarily know, how to navigate marketing activities or build assets, but do need to know what is going on in your Marketo instance. So I'll just jump into our demo instance and just talk you through the marketing calendar, where you can find it, and how you can use it to plan your communications from Marketo. All right, so I'm in one of our demo instances, and you'll see that as soon as you log in, you should have a calendar tile in your My Marketo screen. If you don't, it means that you haven't been assigned a license. And I'll talk you through how you can get a license if you don't have access to it currently. But that's how you can get into the calendar in the first place. So if I go into the calendar, this will then show me, for this instance, all the activities that are going on. All the bits that are in orange, those activities are actually scheduled and approved to go out. So they're actually events that are approved, emails that are approved to be sent, etc. All the gray entries, those are all the ones that have been scheduled but not approved yet. So they're kind of tentative, they're placeholders. Now, obviously, this is our demo instance, so there's not a lot going on, but I can imagine that if you would look into your calendar, you might be in shock the number of activities going on in your instance. It might be quite hard to kind of find what you're looking for. So Marketo Calendar actually allows you to create custom filters. So first of all, you have what's called entry types. And so there's a list of standard entry types that you get with Marketo. And I've put them on a slide for you. I won't go through all of them, but basically anything that is going on in your Marketo, like an email program, even an A/B test. So if you want to see when your test is going out versus when your winner email is being sent, webinars, events, all of those are custom entry, are standard entries in your calendar. So you can actually see that in the calendar. Another powerful feature that you have is being able to also filter by program tag or channel. So let's say I want to only see any entries that are for the APAC region. I can filter by region and then pick APAC. So it will only show me all the programs that are tagged as APAC. So obviously for that to work, you need to properly tag your programs. I'm happy to answer questions on that if you're not sure how to do that, but that's key for your Marketo calendar to really, really work properly. I also quite like that you can basically look at tags such as target audience. So this is just an example, right? But if you would want to see, how many emails are we sending to prospects this week versus customers? It's just a really easy way to see if you might be over communicating to certain groups of people. Again, you would have to tag your programs first, but that's kind of the power that you'll have once you are tagging your programs like that. You can also save these specific calendar views. So let's say if I want to create my view for APAC region, like I just did, and I don't care about all my engagement casts or webinars, I just want to show all my emails. You can then save this view. So there's a little save button there. And this is going to be APEC all emails, and then save. Now that I've actually saved this as a drop-down option, so I can then come back next time and don't have to remember what my filters were. This only saves for my login. So if I'd want to share it with my team, I actually have to click on this share button and share the filter definitions with my team. A little bit annoying, but unfortunately, it doesn't save across the instance. So you'd have to just share that with your team, so everybody's looking at the exact same view. All right. So this is a great way to kind of, view the calendar and just get an idea of what's going on. But the calendar is also quite good for approvals. So let's say I would want to. What was that? Sorry.
I think that was my fault. I've got somebody here who's speaking in the background. Go for it, Suze.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was a question for me. All good. All right. Yeah. So if I'd want to actually look more onto a specific program level, if I click on the program, so first of all, I can then see the audience, so how many people this is actually going to go to. So if I click on calculate, well, this is obviously just one because it's a demo, but for you, this is really a great way to see, okay, this is the number of people that this email is scheduled to go to. And if you click on that, it will actually give you the list of people that's going to. Same for the actual asset. So if I click on my newsletter and preview draft, I can see what email is scheduled in this program. So for somebody not really knowing how to work with Marketo, or not really knowing to navigate marketing activities, this can be a really great way to kind of share what's going on in your Marketo instance, and even give them the opportunity to either approve or not. So this view is read only, but if I click on show program focus, it actually takes me one level deeper. And at this point, you can actually reschedule things or actually make approve entries. So let's say this newsletter here, if I want to reschedule that to the Friday, and I then want to approve it, sliding this here actually approves that email program. So rescheduling and approving you can actually do from within the marketing calendar. So again, do make sure that the people who have access to your calendar, that they know the power of this. And if you don't want them to be able to do that, that you actually don't give them the permission, like the role that allows them to approve. Because whatever role or permission they have in Marketo, the same roles, permissions they will have on the marketing calendar. So they will actually be able to approve. So just keep an eye on that. Then if I'm on that program view, there's also the ability to actually create custom entries. Now, before I show you that, I'll first go and show you how you go about in creating these custom entries. So you do that in the admin section. And then if you go to tags, you see on the second tab, you actually have your calendar entry types. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have never even realized that was there. But if you're an admin and you go to calendar entry types, this is where you go to create your custom calendar entries. So let's say if I wanted to create an entry for, let's do website go live. That's one of the examples I just gave. So if I want to be able to, within my calendar, share when our new website is going live, I first of all give it a name, and then you pick one of these very random icons, such as a bacteria for some reason, or bow tie, sure, bow tie, and pick a color, and then save. And now if I go to the calendar, let's pick on an event just to show you that. See if I have one. Main events. Okay. And then if I click somewhere in the calendar, let's see, then I can enter a custom entry. So website go live, let's say APAC. And then from the drop down, I can pick website go live. So that's the entry that I just created. So that's how I can kind of navigate your way around the calendar. So again, just a really powerful feature that I think of the clients that I work with, I think maybe 1 or 2 actually know that exist and use this, which is really a shame because I think it's really something that you know, a lot of our customers could use. So hopefully you guys got a little bit inspired there as well. If you are wondering whether you actually have this or not, you can check under admin how many licenses are left. Marketo gives you, I think it's around 5 or 10, depending on your subscription, for free. So every Marketo customer will have this, but it's just, the question is how many licenses you actually have. To assign licenses, again, you have to do this under admin. And then under users and roles, if you pick any of your users, you can issue a license from there. And then it will tell you how many licenses you have left. So this instance has 10. This is how you can see how many licenses you have. So that comes with your Marketo subscription. There's also something I quickly wanted to show you that is a paid add-on. So you probably won't have this, but good to show anyway. If you look at your calendar, in the bottom you see something called presentations. This is something called Calendar HD, and that actually allows you to create presentations of your calendar that you could potentially share externally. Because obviously this calendar, you have to have a login for to look at. But if I'd want to make a presentation of my calendar and I'd want to maybe share that in my weekly marketing meetings, etc., I can do that here. This is one that I've previously built just to show you what it looks like. So it basically allows you to show one or more of the custom views that you've created in your calendar, and one or more goals on the right-hand side. So you can kind of display your key metrics there as well. And these pull from either a smart list or a custom metric that you can set up. But again, so this is a paid feature, but I think if you really rely on calendar, this could be something to look into if you don't have it, yet. So yeah, just to sum up, I think, you know, to get the most out of this, you really need to look at using your channels and tags properly, because that's what really allows you to create, you know, those custom views that I showed you. Also naming conventions. If you have a lot going on in your calendar and you don't use naming conventions, really hard to see what is actually, you know, that email that's going out. So not just for marketing calendar, but in general, use naming conventions, and use custom entries as well. Because, you know, unless you put all your marketing activities in there, you know, you're still going to miss part of the information and you're still going to rely on another calendar as well. So doing that really helps kind of get that total view of what's going on. Well, I think that's it for me, unless there are any questions. I'm sure there are.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. The first one's from me. That was our training instance. And you seem to have got a paid add-on for the HD calendar. What on earth are we doing paying for that?
Yeah, I was surprised we had it.
Don't tell me.
I was going to say, it might be one of those things that used to be paid add-on, but now a lot of people can get. I'm not sure. It's worthwhile asking Marketo, actually.
I have to say that when we were doing the dress rehearsal for this, and I'm addressing the audience here and telling Suze that you taught me something, there was a whole bunch of stuff in there, especially the HD, that I just didn't know. And that little gauge, I suppose, and the ability to have those charts inside of there, that's actually pretty cool. And I have to say, without doubt, the calendar is it's the only way really to visualize and see when things are going out, right? How on earth would you do it otherwise, other than leafing through the Marketo tree? Anyway, to the real questions. I think you answered it earlier on, but for clarity, when you hit the share button, in order to share it with the recipient, that person needs a Marketo login. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and set at the right role.
It is, and the reason is because marketing calendar, as you can see, actually allows you to view the audience So because it actually displays data, you would want that to sit behind a login.
Yep,
sure.
no, makes sense. The next one was, is that a horse or a dog?
I think it's a dog. I think the idea was that it's fetching your data. I think that's the,
Right.
the thought behind it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. Same as
Okay.
the icons. Some of these things, I don't know. Ask the product team.
It reminded me of the Greyhound bus logo, but
Yeah.
maybe that's out of date and things have changed. But apart from that, there's no other questions. But thank you, awesome. And there was definitely some things in there that I've sort of certainly taken away. So all that remains is to say thank you very much. I think we're a couple of minutes before time, but thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully people are watching it on record and going backwards and forwards and amazed by just how much the calendar actually does, and what they'll now be able to do using all things social. So thanks very much to both Santi and Suzanne. And for now, cheerio. Thank you.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye all.